Hello there everyone, and welcome back to another of the so-called weekly / bi-weekly reviews. I think we're at the tri-weekly stage at the moment, as of the time of recording. But
yeah, shit keeps happening.
Real life, it gets in the way. But yes, we are here, and apologies for not doing the usual? Attempting the smooth, svelte intro I did last time, but I'm frankly not in the mood, so...
In all fairness, I'm not on my A game either today, so yeah.
Yeah, we're all a bit rough, so if there's more personality than the usual showing through, please forgive us. But yes, anyway, I am Mark III. I'm joined by my usual conspirator in crime, Dama.
What up, yo?
And we also have the presence of an observer and several guest commentators. We have Lil Kari.
Hello.
Yeah, our third criminal mastermind, who we often play with things. We are joined by one of our resident APS experts and specialist in design specifics.
Maximizing?
Min-maxing.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, matey.
He's got his mic muted for the moment, but
yeah,
he's with us.
He must still be eating, but yeah. I forgot to check. I forgot to check. You see, this is what we meant by slipping and we're not on our A game. And we have also got, as an observer, we have Jack. Actually, that's the point. Is one of us streaming so Jack can actually watch this?
I'm actually streaming this, yes.
Okay.
And just a reminder to you guys, Jack is the guy who threw together several of the engines for the Guild of Calamitous Intent engine platform. A few of them I've actually been using very regularly, so yeah, check him out sometime. He gets like about, 700 power per fuel on a few of those? It's worth a look.
Well, yeah, my my steam engines are around 704 materials per power per material, and my fuel engine around 7 at max 706 power per material.
In other words, he's very good at engines, to say the least. Anywho, today we are going to be reviewing the Mekacastor by Normal69, who is actually the moderator of the Guild of Calamitous Intent and one of our fellow content creators.
Yeah, well, actually, he's one of the co-admins, so...
That's true too, yes.
So don't be rude about the craft. We might start a war, basically.
He has several titles. It's kind of hard to keep up with them all, in all fairness.
Yeah.
Anywho, just give you a quick rundown of the craft and weapon system. As you can kind of tell, it's all being held together with what appears to be docking stations. He says central unit movement, terrain avoidance, got some snooper detection going on, charted dockers for modules. The central unit looks like it uses RTG for power. And there's an emergency cockpit in there. I'm assuming that's for just somewhere, some kind of bunker for a Rambot to hide in when this thing is taking fire. That would be my guess.
Yeah, same here.
The right weapon module, he's got dual piercing and EMP PACs. They got a 13-second reload. It's also RTG powered and 90-degree sonar mounted on it. So here for the left module here, we have dual fixed APS, 90-degree sonar. It is also RTG powered. Then there's the 300 millimeter APS that has 50 RPM. Rail 2800 looks like. Accuracy, hollow. Yeah, it's using hollow point heat supercavitation. That's an interesting combination. 200 millimeter for the next one, 85 RPM, has a rail draw 2800 and use timed flak and smoke supercavitation. The top weapon module, it has torpedo missiles, or as Normal likes to call them, torpsiles, I think. It is also RTG powered. It has dual AI for remote control cockpit. It also has its own ammo store, main resource container, snooper, radar, and sonar decoys. It has 16 small remote torpedoes with a variety. With a I can't talk today. Varied payload and decoys set to continuous stream, and 2 big the torpedo missiles with sight and speed restricted, firing with various payload. So yeah, that's kind of a mouthful to say the least.
Say it 5 times fast.
Yeah. So also there is a forward thing. I'm guessing that's the thing on the big beaver there. I'm guessing it's some kind of shielding mechanism. It has a solid layer of glass and the cute beaver face, which I just now mentioned. There is a periscope module. I believe that's way above the central construct, where it has its detection at 360 radar with a gimbal tracker, rangefinder, and a camera for the cockpit display. I'm guessing that's got some kind of remote visual system for the main body. I don't know.
Must do. There is a video screen in here actually. So.
Yeah, we haven't really had a chance to look a lot of it over in depth because, as we stated before, lots of times that we try to do these just like our first impressions, so it's pretty genuine. But he says that this is just a heavy flying submarine, which from what I saw the propulsion, just looking really briefly at it, it can totally do that. It just targets pretty much everything. The instructions that he has for us is to spawn like 1 to 2 kilometers away. So, and not to use a Docker, of course. So, yeah. I think I covered everything.
Yeah, that's everything that he provided to us. One thing I would like to note about it, by the way, is this craft was made before a graphical update to the tractor beams, so I suspect those graphics are not meant to be there.
You can turn those off and on, though, in the tractor beam UI.
This is true, but as I mentioned, this craft was built before that,
yeah.
So that's why they probably shouldn't be there and going through some of the craft sections.
So I'm not quite sure where to start off with reviewing this thing, because it's got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separate units on this thing.
Yeah, this is basically one mothership and a whole bunch of drones, which contain the actual systems, including I think the first part we should review is the scariest of them. The
shield?
Yes. The mascot. The thing that makes you not want to shoot it.
So if any of you guys out there in YouTube land are familiar with Normal, he has his own channel like the rest of us. And he's had something of a, what would be a way to put this, a beaver fetish as of late, so yeah. That's probably why we have this cute little fellow on the front of this. Should note that when in combat, these little spotlights here do glow red. So, yeah, a very mischievous beaver.
Well, we think they glow red in combat. We don't know that for sure because we've not actually tested or found the control blocks for them.
Could use little probably could use a little combat testing before we are done. I can't seem to find an AI in this beaver thing though.
I just found another spotlight below the teeth for some reason.
Yes.
That's where the AI is. The AI is down. The
AI is down there.
Let me just shrink the blocks, see if I can.
It's in the bulge at the back near the bottom.
It's painted black, no wonder.
I don't know why there's a spotlight there though.
It's normal, who the hell knows?
Fair.
Just something we want to note here. Normal is the guy that you want to go to if you want to come up with something that's insanely unconventional. And it really shows in his designs. And I'm not faulting him for that. I just find a lot of his stuff to be extremely interesting.
Yeah, the normally drones are like self-contained vehicles in their own right. Not many people actually go for the drones as weapon pods approach. But
Though it is very popular in the Twin Guard.
true, yeah, but they've always had that. I mean, like in player constructs, though, it's usually on the rare side.
So we have this frontal piece here. Is there anything of note that you saw there, Ion?
No, I didn't manage to track down the ACBs or whatever controls the spotlights, so maybe the AI
I don't think
controls?
there's any. I noticed it's 4 layers thick with 2 layers of metal at the very back, with applique plates in the front with wood in front of those.
Yeah, so it's got spaced armor, then solid metal sheet as its layout.
I wonder how
That's
much this. Yeah, that
Dama.
bit alone was like 35,000K. That's not too bad. That's fairly cheap.
It also has a sheet of glass in front of the beaver face.
And above, too, if you didn't notice, to catch plunging shots.
Yeah, the plunging fire from like cranes is like insanely bad.
Well, you got to remember, though, this thing is basically a submarine, so... I think it's meant to fight a submarine, I'm not entirely sure, but... We'll find out later.
Sorry guys, I had a bit of an emergency, so...
No, that's fine, normal. All you missed was us talking about the beaver, so...
Yeah, we're talking about Normal's beaver.
Well...
Anywho...
Yeah, that's Dama being himself, folks.
Yes.
Right, next, shall we keep it simple?
I do it
and...
for the lulz.
Yeah. And to try and torture us. Anyway, shall we do the next simple one, which is the one on top, the sensor system?
Yeah, I was actually about to suggest that myself.
Same here.
Well,
Got a little sensor drone here.
We
It's
played
not
together too.
just the sensor system, if you take a look.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the missile system.
I haven't seen any missiles in here.
Yeah, this
Oh,
thing's
he's
a little
talking
too
about the
small.
bit that's underneath it. There's like a way up above the entire thing. There's like a very, very small drone here with a bunch of sensors attached to it. He's got like a 90 camera, a gimbal radar, and a 360 radar. I think he described this as something like a periscope, but he's also got
that's what he said, yeah. He said
7-meter rangefinder on this.
Well, this thing stays above the water at all times, according to the general description. And I think the spikes are just in case something actually decides to get too close and ram into it. So, you know, a bit of a middle finger to them.
I mean,
Possibly. That sounds like something Normal would do.
Yeah, it does.
looking at all of this, it does seem quite capable of rangefinding, but I'm just missing some things on this. The rangefinder is good, but there is only one of it, so...
I would have added a laser rangefinder myself somewhere to this thing, but, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. And those rams... Well, in terms of efficiency, I'd probably just sacrifice them, because this thing will not survive anything, even touching it.
True, but there's much bigger targets.
One
to be
big
going for.
HE round would just fry this whole thing.
You know what
I
I
mean-
would do?
What's that?
I would actually take the docking station it's on, mount it to some spin blocks, and then either go with a double or quad configuration, so I could have either 2 or 4 of these things above the waterline.
Yeah, if you like tilt them like
Yeah.
on a spin block like maybe 45 degrees, and you could just have them fly around in a big circle.
But well, having them moving around too much might exceed the speed limit and make the docking station disconnect. So depends how fast the thing's meant to go.
Maybe.
I do have a slightly better idea.
Oh, what's that?
Normal's not supposed to spin clipping, so I just put a spin block in the middle, mount the docking station on it, and slowly spin clip it around the whole thing. So you do have like, 15-20 meter radius, which could make this thing really difficult to hit.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking about redundancy. You guys talking about cheese, so whatever. They're both options. They're both valid options. So
Normal is known for cheese.
It's normal,
let's call a
so...
turd a turd. here.
sometimes he likes to do it, sometimes he doesn't. But
Yeah.
we are also discussing the design for viewers who may or may not like that either. So it's good to cover both points of view, honestly.
Yeah. I get your point. And, well, two of them would actually be very beneficial, I think. Because, as you said, redundancy.
Well, it's a bit of backup, and it's also more data points for detection as well, which will improve weapon accuracy.
I mean, it's the same idea why I put rangefinders on every turret I have.
Yeah, just in
Is
case.
because
Redundancy.
you're aiming at the thing, your main detection gets knocked off, and you suddenly want to fire again, so...
Yeah, I do
Why
the same
not?
damn thing.
I mean, he does have sonar on everything, but clearly it would be beneficial to...
Yeah, in
something
combat, this thing
else.
is a submarine.
But
So-
let's also keep in mind that he's got some APS going on here, and I don't think it's going to track near as well without this periscope bit up here, because
it'll
I'm not
track-
entirely sure what the detection is like if you're using sonar with APS. I don't know if it would be close enough to make it accurate enough to be using APS.
Well,
underwater.
he's got
You are...
fair fire rates on those things. He's got good fire rates, so I think he's accounting for an accuracy with volume.
I would say it's going to be very inaccurate because you're getting effectively 5 times the inaccuracy just built in as a standard camera system. So, yeah, have 2 of these things.
Okay, can I put my foot down and hit someone, I guess matey, over the head with a point of order?
Sure, why not?
Which is, we've spent like the last 10 minutes or so talking about the tiny drone, so maybe we should be moving on to another piece.
That's probably a good point, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway...
No offense, matey, I just wasn't sure who to hit over the head with a point of order, so I just said you because you were the last one to speak.
Okay. So, which part would we like to go over next?
Next one down, I suppose. Missiles,
Yeah,
actually?
that's fine.
Sure, let's go with that.
Alright, let's see what's in here then.
Let's just see.
Looks like he's got some turbine generators here, and he has that paired up with his RTGs.
Turbine
He's
generator.
got some
Actually, this is the
turbines.
this is the bunker bit. Actually, I thought this was a
Yeah.
separate piece, but no, this is where all of our bots are too.
I thought the bit below it was what everything was docked to.
It is, because you can see from the docking station's graphics.
Oh, okay.
This bit also houses suspended ammo storage in the pods underneath it.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how these... I'm sorry, go ahead, matey.
I'm just looking at the ammo storage, and despite all that's good, one of these blows and it may well take the other with it, because chain explosions, and ever since the last research rework, ammo's vicious in terms of explosions.
Well, one thing to remember, matey, is he's got that big shield in front of it, so he's probably not all too much worried about it.
Also,
but
space
redundancy still.
Also, being an underwater vehicle, that makes it much more harder to hit.
I concur.
Yeah.
But
It's also,
Anywho.
there's also 3 meters before it even reaches the armor plating of the craft above it, and I wouldn't put it past normal to have worked out which corner of the box the explosion comes from, because Dama did that. So it's probably going to be at least 4 meters before the explosion can hit the actual main craft.
And it should also be noted that he does have a lot of repair spam going on in this thing, as far as he's got repair tentacles, which I am assuming just to keep everything in repair, but probably most likely for the shielding more than anything.
yeah, Although it doesn't seem he did his usual thing, which is slightly dropping the sub-vehicles, just so they have a second or two to use repair tentacles on the main one.
That depends. We don't know if it's programmed to do that in combat, or it's just something he didn't include in this model. You've also got to remember this is a fairly old build by this point. It's been waiting in the queue for a while.
It's been sitting in there quite some time. Since January, from what it looks like. January 4th, he's had that thing up there?
Yeah, and he builds new craft at a fair pace, so...
Yes.
Who knows?
I'm trying to figure out how the hell he launches these decoys here at the back, because there's like no door for them.
I think it's like bump and drop, probably.
Okay.
Have you noticed the explosive reactive armor that's placed there? Maybe it's just like they bounce out or something.
No, that would make sense. Okay.
I mean,
I think how he does this is missiles tend to, at least for the first few seconds, be somewhat light on the collision physics side of things, and
I just checked. I just checked. 45-degree ejection angle as well, so that thing is going to be pointing straight out the that hole.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it gets kicked out.
that's enough to do it. I mean, if you want to see what I mean light on the collision physics side, just look at an iron cordon while it's firing its missiles forwards, and you'll notice them clipping through the previous turrets.
Mm-hmm.
Or look at my missile racks. Same thing. You know, those things where I stack 3 missiles behind each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same deal. Anyway, I just don't like the silence that was like, look at my stuff. Everyone suddenly goes, crickets, tumbleweed. Thanks, guys. Anyway.
Anywho.
Yeah, let's move on.
Have you looked at these small missiles that are on the left and right sides?
I was just starting to browse through them actually, and yes, he did mention they were mixed warheads, and they really are. It seems like he's got like...
That's a Swiss Army knife if I've ever seen one for a missile.
Yeah, I also noticed that they're all remote guidance, which explains the massive amount of AI processing power he has.
Yep.
Very much. Mostly explosive. Some of them have frag as secondary warheads though.
He also had these set up to where it looks like they'll work in and out of the water, which is an interesting choice, but I'm guessing he just wants to be able to hit anything and everything with these.
Basically,
you don't really see a whole lot of shape charge missiles here, so that's interesting too.
Yeah,
Well,
you have to build around that idea of shape charges.
Yeah, it's actually shape-charged small missiles that are the rarest. Mediums and larger are usually what's considered quote-unquote viable. At least as I understand the meta.
It looks like he's wanting to cause a lot of chaos with these too, because he's got sonar and radar target simulators with this. Not a bad idea. I mean, it just only takes like one component on a small missile, and you can just span the hell out of these and probably drive all kinds of sensors crazy.
Even better, it's half a component.
Yes. When compared to a medium, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, they don't distract much, but you've got a lot of
Actually,
them.
it could be an eighth of a component. Because you get 4 missiles per component.
True, but you got to remember you're still getting 4 missiles in that. Unless you've actually installed a single missile, so...
Yeah, so 4 missiles, so come back that down to 4 part components. And it's taken half of that, so an eighth of the component.
What do the missiles up front look like? Has anyone had a chance to look at those?
Um,
Yeah,
Just
they're remote
bigger
guidance.
versions.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're just bigger
pretty much
versions
the
of the
same
small
thing.
ones.
Okay.
explosive EMP, shape charge heads. Seems like they're fairly fast tracking for the size because they've a lot of fins proportional to everything else.
I
He
know how
also
Space-
has these
I'm sorry,
on
go
a very long delay firing between each. because he has a maximum fire stagger interval of 1, 2, and 3.
Are we talking about the large ones?
I think it means
Yeah.
the small ones.
The larger ones.
Really?
Yeah. I see 3 stagger components all stacked at 5 seconds each, so 15 seconds.
Seems like
He also did mention in his description of the craft that he had a tour they fired continuously. I'm guessing he meant that this thing's just always going to be spewing out missiles at a constant rate, I think is what he meant by that.
Yeah, it's basically synchronized.
spam?
It's staggered fire before the synchronized fire feature was installed into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Considering these large missiles have a reload time of 33.2 seconds, so
yeah, roughly even.
yeah.
Actually, I'd say that since he has the APN guidance, I'd remove one of the fins, place one of them at the front, and then add one more payload to a section. Because that would give you a similar, well, slightly lower level of turn rate, but the extra damage is worth it. And it's not turning particularly fast either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also doesn't help he has most of his fins near the center of the missile.
I think that's just the way he wound up building it.
I'm just going
Yep.
to modify the left one to show what I do, and then reset it back with the right one. So
is there any other things that we'd like to touch on about this
Matey,
section?
Matey, you seem to have forgotten that there's a shaped charge head in there. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so that would probably remain something like this, and just
Weren't you talking about adding an extra payload section to this thing?
yep, it's the fuel tank that I'm just going to have to move. But you can probably do this.
Yeah,
It's already.
This missile's a bit tight. That's the thing, though. That's probably why he put the fins where he did. I mean, the back 2 sections are needed for the propulsion. The front is needed for the shape charge and attached explosives. So, not much room for putting the fins where they would do the most turning effect, really.
Although, since you're putting them 3 from the front, if you just switch out the EMP head, since that works at any angle, you could probably do it. So that's what I was thinking,
Alright.
because it would improve your turning sector slightly, and well, then decrease the effectiveness at least. Plus, having more EMP, I think that would be very beneficial for these things, because turning of the enemy's weapons rather useful, as you may imagine.
Do we have any other things that we'd like to bring up about that particular part of the craft, or do we want to move on to the mothership portion below?
I think I'm inclined to hit someone with a point of order again to move on.
Yeah, I think we should move on.
Okay.
Right. Shall we go for the smallest remaining section then, which is the right arm of Mechagodzilla?
Sure. That's the one with the
particle cannons.
pack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's shrink the blocks, have a quick look-see in there. You have some very, very small PACs here. He had them set to EMP pierce, was it?
Yeah, one set to piercing, one set to EMP. From the outside, it's the top one that's EMP. Or from how it's built, it's the left one that's EMP. But they are identical apart from that.
So this is kind of interesting here. I was expecting to see maybe some turbines, but he's got like 4 of the largest RTGs in here and like 2 of the smallest.
Yeah, it's probably to make sure this thing could keep running without external material supplies.
Surprisingly, it's not that expensive. It's only like 34k for this whole thing, which that's actually kind of doable.
I'd say that this thing's kind of meant to be also the power plant of the vehicle, Because normally usually does that, since his vehicles are meant to run for free while out of combat.
I think probably more accurate to say one of the power plants. I'd be surprised if there wasn't more. Well, didn't he say the central bit has RTGs as well? We'll find out when we get there, but
The left one does, at least, and I'll quickly look into the sensor, and yes, it does have some RTGs, but
yeah,
clearly
so
this is meant to power itself, at least.
yeah, power
The
itself
bunker
and
bit has some power generation too, it looks like.
power itself and provide redundancy to help power the others if required.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I did. Anyway, yeah, these are scatter lenses, direct inputs from the ports to increase the effect of the length into a very compact package. Surge protected, repair tentacles just in case, and somewhat robust AI system actually. Not sure why the AI has that much processing power on it.
That's actually a good question. You wouldn't think like a couple of sonars would.
No, this thing
Doesn't launch anything.
it doesn't have any launchers, doesn't have any remote guided missiles on it. Maybe it was intended to, and then he changed its loadout as he finalized the weapon systems and just didn't take out the unneeded cards.
Yeah, that's something I've done myself a few times, so yeah, that's a possibility.
That's probably just that.
Yeah.
So you could probably drive about like maybe 200-300 mats off of this, getting rid of a few of these cards, but that's no big deal.
I'd actually counter saying that he should just replace one of the cards with the... what is it called? The wireless detector.
Yeah, wireless snooper. Just a bit of extra detection. Yeah, that would also be a good idea.
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Because, I mean, that thing's really useful because it's just accurate enough to let all of the trackers lock on.
Never mind the fact that you can put those essentially anywhere you want.
Listening.
And not have any issues, with line of sight and things like that. Ooh. Don't cross the streams now, Ian.
No guarantees, Dama. I will summon Stay Puft Man. Yeah, bit of a lag time there, but given how small the pack system is, that's to be expected.
Well, he had it set for 13-second recharge, I believe.
Yeah, true. And if we look, that is... Well, considering these are scatter lenses, they're both doing 2 times almost 1,000 damage each, so that's like 2,000 a shot, almost. Which the EMP is a significant jolt. The kinetic is kind of light, sorry, piercing rather, but it is 50 AP, so it'll knock through some stuff at least.
I'd say the EMP is just enough there to be annoying.
Pretty much, yeah. I think this is like the light weapon arm, really. It's the missiles. Even the missile system is more heavily armed than this one.
Honestly, if I were to say anything about those packs, I'd rather combine them into a single one, but that's just my personal preference.
Yeah, they're just split for different damage types, it looks like.
Yeah, but if you're having this one, the EMP, it's just enough to knock out a weapon in 2 to 3 hits, so combining both into EMP would probably be slightly better. Then again, if this is meant to be anti-light, that could provide just enough punch to knock out, well, a weapon on something small, or just try a
It
splitter.
would make a decent anti-air weapon, now that you mention it. Gets like small flyers.
You know what I'd do?
What's that?
I'd make this arm 1 meter thicker, then turn the pack system on its side after taking out the EMP surge protectors, and then that'll let me mount like 4 or 5 of those packs instead of just the 2.
If you can get enough juice in it to make up for it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, potentially this thing could go all the way up to 7, depending on what's to the sides of it.
And depending on how kinky you're feeling, yeah.
Yeah, if you took out the surge protectors and repair blocks in the middle of the pack assembly and condensed it to a 2 meter width instead of 3, you could turn them on the side and just have an entire line of packs built into this thing.
Yep. So, are we ready to move on to the APS arm?
I believe
I'll
we
just
are.
note something in general, because I do not think this has been noted, but this thing was created back when ERA, if hit by a shell, would completely just delete the shell instead of doing anything else.
To be fair,
Has been changed recently.
yeah, I was going to
So-
say that's changed recently.
I think normal with that. I think he must have just gone somewhere with it, because I remember him making an entire craft out of ERA and it weirdly worked.
So I'm having a look here in the APS arm here, and it looks like he just spammed a bunch of auto loaders with like a single ammo intake for both of them.
Well, that's one way to get fire rate.
Yeah, something like this would probably be kind of expensive, but at the same rate, he doesn't have to worry as much about an ammo blow up because you wouldn't have near as many shells in the gun.
This configuration relies on a sustained supply of materials because it doesn't have any kind of ammo reserve built into it. So that's one potential drawback. But if you look though, this particular system does have 2 massive resource containers built into it and a whole bunch of ammo boxes behind that as well, so it's got its own ammo supply.
And its own RTGs, like we've been seeing in a lot.
Actually,
of
it's got
other
turbines in it.
things. Yeah, it's got both.
I'd actually say one important thing about the system. After looking at the shield ammo types, it's designed to prevent an ammo blowout. I use exactly the same thing when I do not particularly care about ejectors because they're extremely volume inefficient with 1 loaders. So this is probably the best he could do if he does think this thing will get hit, which with a sub is not that likely.
I think the 200 mils are kinetic, are they?
Yeah, it's weird what he does with them, but I'm not going to comment on it because he has his own reasons, and well, I'd rather see them specialized, but experimental weapons.
Actually,
No.
these are flak warhead.
Yeah, I was going to
and
mention
smoke.
that, Dama.
Flak and smoke, yeah, on the 200, while the 300 mil is...
It is hollow point heat.
Yeah, so 1 anti-armor, 1 anti-light / utility, feels like.
I would say that something like that could be very useful, like disabling lamps and just stripping off components, I think is what he intended for this, the 200mm. That's what I'm getting out of it anyway. Fire rate seems actually pretty decent.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier, like, making up for some degree of inaccuracy in the sense systems with a fairly high rate of fire. Individual shells are relatively weak for the calibers, but hey, I do that all the time, so you know.
So, I'll mention my own thing.
Mhm.
Pen factor on the heat, even for a submarine, is quite low. And this is important because, given the fact you may be hitting quite a bit of armor and both the armor changes in general, this thing will struggle against medium to heavy armor. Just enough layers will completely negate the heat shell, which I tend to at least 130 from the pen factor.
Well, I would say overall this craft looks like it's built more to deal with light to medium armored crafts. It's not actually meant to take on heavyweights or anything like that because it just doesn't have much by way of weaponry to use against them.
Of course, that's not going to stop
Yeah.
me from testing this out against a bulwark.
Of course not, no. But
Honestly, I think the only thing here that can take heavyweights is the top module.
yeah, because of those large torpedoes. Torpedoes?
Torpsiles.
Yeah, that's it. Torp styles. And even then though, they are relatively short, relatively low firepower. So again, I'd say middleweight rather than like heavyweight opponents. This thing's not meant to be a heavy hitter. What it's meant to be is a bastardized robot. Or a beaver that thinks it can.
Yes.
I think that's probably the best way to put it.
So I'm just starting to take a peek here at the insides of the mothership unit.
Dama,
Yes.
have you had a look at the side of the main mothership?
Yes, it's got the Guild of Calamitous Intent logo on it.
Hmm.
Hate you can trust.
Yes. Join our Discord. Buy our shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right, yeah. So now we're on to the core unit then.
Yeah, it looks like he's got this thing doing about everything you could ever want to do. It's got power generation, it's got resource gathering. Looks like he's done some spin block fuckery.
Yeah, a lot of cheese in that middle section there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially on Deadly Blades. Well, mostly on Deadly Blades, it looks like, actually. But,
The Deadly Blades, I don't think he's got any cheese going on with those, but
oh,
if you
yeah,
have a look
no,
at that
it doesn't.
center section, he's got like maybe 2 or 3 things sitting on top of each other. It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, so it looks like the base is a 3-meter 1-axis turret, followed by a elevation turret, followed by a spin block.
One thing I've been wondering though is, does he like have any ACBs to control the power generation from the turbines, or what's going on with that? Yeah, it looks like you might have some here.
I found the ones which determine altitude. Not really seeing any others, but I think this is actually, if you recall, he was doing a lot of stuff like the true core of the ship was only this little cube, which I think is the bit that you've noticed saying is spin blocked all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has a power generation control blocks down there at the bottom.
But yeah, that is the actual heart of the ship, and then the bit around that is actually another drone, I suspect. So I'm not sure, actually.
I feel like you'd have a hell of a time getting to it because you have like constructs all around that you'd have to get through first before you got to the central bit.
Actually, no, never mind. That the armored section of that mothership block is actually part of that mothership because there's 5 drones plus the Mekacastor itself.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not done that. I'm not sure what the hell he's done, but yeah. Well, it's normal. We're never sure what he does. End of the day.
That's part of his charm.
True.
Yeah, it's normal. It's normal for us to expect the unexpected from normal.
Yes, our
think
normal is very abnormal.
I think his name is just to taunt people and mislead them.
I think so too. I think it's got to be satirical on some level.
It's gotta be.
He's got a hell of a lot of RTGs in this center bit though. I'm not sure if it's the cost for the entire thing, but the middle bit's shown like 320k almost.
I'm not sure either. But 320k I think would actually count for the whole thing. It sounds about right.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Anyway, there's not much to say about the central bit, so in fact it's ducted and can do just about everything, and it's slowly poisoning the sea with its bright red smoke.
A fine cloud of red mist coming out of the back.
Yep. So shall we see what it does against some target dummies?
Combat practice? Sure.
I'll just mention one thing. This was before ducts got nerfed, so you know this was just a 7x7 full block. Because fuck you, apparently.
Yep. Does anyone have a caps lock right now, or?
I released it. I released it.
Okay.
Or I did, unless. Yeah,
it's hovering outside of combat, so.
Okay.
He did call it a flying submarine, so right. What shall we feed to with the beaver first?
Let's just bring in a standard marauder, see how it reacts, and then we'll just move on up the food chain with some bigger and badder stuff.
You asked us to remind you, Dama, not to spawn it as Deepwater Guard?
Yes.
Make sure it's on Onyx Watch.
Or a different faction. Just not one of
How
us
about
fellow
this
pirates.
gone?
I don't know.
Funny you should say that. So I was just thinking the same damn thing. Okay. So we go here. We go. There we go. Okay. So set those 2 ships. And I'll just drop like a couple of marauders out there at about 2 kilometers. And she's off and running.
Yep, straight into the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you can see the movement. That's something really clever he's done, I think. Because it keeps all of its sub-objects pointing whichever way, while also having the central section.
Yeah, it looked like he had something on like a central turret block, like a 3x3. I don't know if you guys spotted that.
Yeah.
That's all of the docking stations.
Look at all these mini missiles that are coming out.
I know. And they're just now getting within range. It
Nope,
seems
it's
like
changing
the...
target. Nope.
I mean, they eventually find the target, but it looks like they're going to make a couple of passes before they actually hit something.
As long as they've got
least
the
the first
duration
ones.
to let them do that.
Yeah. It just seems like he wanted a kind of a anti-everything weapon system with that.
Yeah, we are kind of seeing that lack of heavy weaponry coming into play a bit, even against the Marauder.
Oh, they're changing targets now.
Yet the first Marauder, I think, is probably AI dead.
It is.
Yeah.
There's no AI here.
Only a big hole.
This is probably the biggest indication of death by 1,000 cuts I've ever seen from a ship. Because
So, would you guys see this as like a offensive unit, or probably more like a supporting unit that just provides fire support from long range? Because that's kind of what I'm getting, is the latter of the two.
I feel like it's a
Get
decoy.
the defensive.
I feel like it's a decoy.
I'll just say it's purely based on defense. This thing's not going to do a ton, so plop it down where you need to counter the enemy advance, for example, near their actual fortress, before you get enough firepower to assault that, and this thing will quite happily counter a lot of units, and well, now it's out of the water.
Yeah, both Marauders are dead.
So, do we want to give this something a little bit more beefier to fight?
Yep.
I'd say let's take a plunderer
Plunder?
or
Yeah.
a kraken. Perhaps a kraken, because that thing has large torpedoes, so let's see how this does against that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it has flank, which will be very interesting to see.
Dive, dive, dive. It does get in the water very quickly, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's got very powerful.
And Perry's going down.
Altitude control is very powerful. Here come the big
it's gonna be
torpedoes.
quite interesting because the kraken keeps targeting the small drone, as you can see, which is getting healed, and it has relatively powerful over-the-water munition defenses with that top minigun and intercepting missiles.
You know, one thing that's kind of surprised me, though, so far is I haven't seen it launch any of the larger missiles, but I'm guessing he probably has some kind of restriction on those to only fire at things at a certain volume.
Maybe. As a side note, by the way, the Kraken's big missiles got neutralized by the glass walls.
Yeah, and there's also another thing I want to point out. Apparently, he doesn't have a laser target on his flat cannon.
So, just something that could be potentially used by other people is like building a glass torpedo net, for lack of a better
That's
term.
basically what it is, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the inbound torpedoes are killing a chunk of the glass, but they weren't really affecting the beaver face.
That in
Or he
it's
does
probably
have a laser
cheaper to
charger.
replace the glass than replace hull pieces, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's just like spaced armor basically.
Mhm.
By the way, the Kraken's dead.
Yeah,
I think with the glass,
like Chorus Lupercal did.
it's quite interesting what he's done with it, but given its effectiveness, I wouldn't question it because glass seems to have similar effect to the stone of old, let's say.
Yeah.
Even though the cost is still 3 materials, it's relatively cheap to replace, so if you don't mind the repair cheese, this is definitely the way to go.
Well, that it's a bit more aesthetically pleasing because you can actually see the design behind the glass as long as you don't like add any paint to it.
Depends on graphic
I mean-
settings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This could definitely just be some sort of a sci-fi design with glass as a actual shield, let's
Mhm.
say.
Do we want to bring in another design, something a little more heavier, maybe from the
Yeah.
Oxwatch?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we want to testigate something that's more durable, so we can see how well it
Okay.
actually performs against something like that.
Does anyone have any recommendations for a
My
Oxwatch?
normal midweight armor is the Kingstead that I face because, like, 2 meter average metal armor.
Okay,
I think it's reasonable for a medium armor target.
let's
Do then
see
have
how it
a-
goes.
Challenge if it manages to defeat something heavier, which would be a Steel Strider's design, because I think that would be an interesting fight.
How much is a Kingstead? Like
330k.
330k? Yeah.
Yeah.
So similar price range, actually.
But it should be noted though that Kingstead doesn't really have any subsurface capability, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of a hard
that's a
counter.
big problem with all Oxwatch designs.
Well,
except the ones
it's,
which use huge torpedoes, which are cancelled.
well, I did mention when I suggested it, it's good here because it tests how well it does against a medium armor target. Not necessarily because the Kingstead's good at shooting back, because unless you're like a big chunky surface ship, it's probably not going to be able to do that very well. Just because it's got a heavy crowns as most of its weapon system.
Now this craft seems like something that could be used pretty well, like almost all through the game.
Probably.
It would probably have more of a support role in the latter part of the game, but I think in the early and mid stages it would do very well.
Let's also don't forget Kingstead also has a lot of space armor.
Yes, that is very true. So
It
he ain't
does.
gonna do a whole hell of a lot.
I'd say this thing could be quite useful because of the RTGs especially. You can just deploy this anywhere you want. Although one thing I'll say with its particular kind of repair spamminess, it's not going to be very good on the offensive because you really want to stay within tiles where you can repair. Oh, there went a large missile, so
Yeah, it landed on one of the upper turrets.
yeah, it seems like the heat didn't really do much, but the explosion itself,
I think it disabled the gun though.
one of the guns, and well, again,
It's not even firing though. It's just staying still. It's like it. Okay, fuck it. I can't shoot anyway.
I think
the second one landed, and that actually disabled one of the guns. So
Hey, there's another torpedo island. I might have to experiment with those now.
Yeah.
they are useful. The main problem with them is the fuel burn from having multiple propulsion running on it, so they tend to need more fuel.
That and they're expensive to use.
Not especially. All you're doing is sacrificing one part to mount the propeller.
I'm talking like the large ones, but yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, large missiles. Well, it's large missiles, so, you know.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, these are very useful as remote guidance weapons if you're doing like high explosive ones.
I
Because
probably would have done like a heat. I mean, not the heat, but like an EMP frag one because that just seems to be a good general purpose for everything. But yeah, this is good in its own right.
I'd say just a large or a huge remote guided one with frag. Have 2 of them or 3 launch at the same time, and that's going to be a lot of damage. Although the Kingstep will take a long time to kill over here because, well, its AI is somewhere at the top instead of
Yeah.
at the bottom as most ships usually do.
I was about to declare another point of order and smack, I think, Little Kari over the head with it, because I've smacked Dama
okay.
and Matey with them already. So, you know,
So
Only do it if you mean it.
I've got to be an equal opportunity abuser. You know?
Okay.
But yeah, this Kingston fight's going to take a while.
Yeah, so I was going to say, we've seen how well it's performing against the medium armor target, which is overall not very. It can knock out some more vulnerable systems, but the main hull's not really taking much of a battering so far.
Death by 1,000 cuts, I
Yeah.
think is what one of us said earlier.
Yeah, so Dama, would you mind murdering the Kingstead, please?
Not
If
at
you
all. What would we like to bring in next? I believe Matey had a suggestion
Yeah, Matey-
from the Steel Striders.
I think the Braveheart.
What tier is that?
Godly 300k, so it's similar price range. It's got torpedoes, it's got railguns.
Right,
I think it would be a decent match.
Okay.
Right, and one last point of order. I smacked myself on
Yes.
the head for this one, so, you know, there we go. What goes around comes around. I would suggest this be the last fight because we are about to hit an hour for this review as well. So
Yeah, that's probably wise. Okay, bringing in a Braveheart right now.
I'm being so abusive today, aren't I?
Eh. But yeah, we probably need to wrap this up because it's not so as much as that it was a hard review to do, it's just that there was so many segments to this beast. And
Yeah, we were looking at each one. Maybe we've not given that much advice, but the thing is, it looks like one craft, it sounds like one craft, it feels like one craft, but it's actually many little specialised craft essentially welded together, so, you know.
it looked like this thing was just a little out of range for the larger torp missiles there. They blew it before they got to the target.
Did it? I didn't spot that.
It has actual interceptors if you take a look, so that's
That would make sense.
Yeah,
one
it,
weakness.
I
it'd, be,
didn't see any.
it'd be very odd for the torp missile. Damn it, Nolan. Why do you call them that? It'd be odd for them to actually explode because they do have a naturally very long lifetime.
Yeah.
Looks like they might have some target prediction going on with the smaller ones.
I think that's the
They do.
APN.
Okay. I think that thing's really going to do a number on it, though.
It's got 3 railguns, so if it manages to actually shoot.
It's like spamming heat all over it with these smaller torpedo missiles.
Yeah.
It's going to do lots of internal damage, I think.
It's very compact, which is why I also tested it, because if you take a look, it already disabled the torpedo launchers. So there is damage being done. Very slowly though. It's only 2% held down.
Also, torpedo launchers, despite having some health of their own, they are not as tough as armor. So,
Yeah.
It looks like it hasn't even taken any damage, at least Normal's craft has, but he did do a lot of repair spam on all fairness.
Yeah.
without the repair spam, Normal would have lost his periscope. In fact, he almost lost it again. It got hit pretty hard, but it's being fixed already.
Yeah.
So.
It's gonna cost a lot to just keep that thing running, but it
Yeah.
is that
So
unless you
it is.
unless you have specifically remote guided torpedoes, this craft will do quite well at keeping its shield intact, which is kind of, well, annoying for everything because you have to have enough firepower to break through the shield through the repair spam, or just run this thing out of material.
I might have done a few different things with this, like probably put some kind of a chaff emitter on it. I think that might help a little bit with it not getting hit, but just a thought. So he did make this all out of alloy. A layer of rubber might have helped with trying to decrease the it being detected a little more, but yeah.
I think at the range it's circling at, I'm not sure that that's really much of a factor.
Yeah, cameras will probably pick it up pretty easily.
I think the whole point of the periscope drone is just flat out that it's so small, it's hard to hit. And to be fair, a lot of attacks are flat out missing it, including homing missiles and things. So
Yeah.
it's a very tiny target.
So cheap, it's still getting repaired quite easily. Which must be pretty damn annoying for the enemy. And we can also see the actual decoy rising up to the top. Although I'd actually put it down on the bottom of the ocean floor, because that jumping up and down like this will cause the torpedo seekers to actually retarget. And they do have a really interesting way of determining what's the strongest signature, because they care about the small thing closest to the middle of the cone, basically.
I wonder if it might be a good idea to like have a blueprint spawner there, just so if the drone is completely like nuked, you could just build another one from scratch.
It has one anyway because it's a mothership.
Well, I mean I can't remember what the name of the damn thing is.
No, but I mean, like, for a ship to actually be a mothership, it needs to have a blueprint stock, doesn't it?
You're talking about the sub-vehicle spawner. I'm talking about the vehicle blueprint spawner.
Oh yeah, those two are different, aren't they? Never mind.
A little bit, yeah. But that would just be like a just-in-case thing, but I don't know if this thing would be able to pick up something that it just spawned in.
Probably not, because it would class as a separate vehicle as far as the game is concerned.
Yes.
If it was like a disposable drone that could accompany it by itself, then yeah, it could just do that because it wouldn't need to hold it. But the fact it needs to hold it, I think, is what makes that a problem.
It doesn't look like this destroyer, I guess, is what you would classify this thing as. It hasn't done like a whole lot of damage to it. I mean, it's only like 87%, and this fight's been going on how long now?
Actually, it's mostly been disabled.
Yeah, it's been mostly disabled. The front guns are down, the Seaways is down, the torpedoes are down.
It's only the aft turret still firing.
Yeah, death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, I mean, there are some holes in it, and the hull is getting slowly chipped away, but it's just like, again, that lack of damage output overall. But the fact that nearly all the weaponry does EMP damage is disabling a lot of the systems.
A lot of the damage is on the other side of the ship.
I think it just needs like more of a heavy-hitting block-killing weapon, but that's just my opinion.
It does need something heavier to complement its weapon loadouts. Maybe your suggestion of like a centralized pack, or maybe merge the APS systems into a single powerful APS, or...
Actually, I was just thinking like a single large HE torpedo could knock some serious holes in the side of this thing.
Yeah, just to rework on the heavy torpedoes was going to be our next suggestion. Like, maybe expand the missile pod forward slightly and get some extra torpedoes in there. Just a bit more firepower is what this thing really needs, I think.
I'm a huge fan of torpedoes, and I would argue that they're probably one of the best weapon systems in the game, so I'm a little partial to them.
To be honest, I think one of the things that is a bit of a drawback for this design is the fact that the missiles are all so multi-purpose and they're all focused on heat so much.
Yeah,
some more specialised missile payloads.
He was actually decent.
But having like a remote guided upperhead HE missile, I think would really give this thing a lot of block damage potential. Yeah,
even like just like swapping some of the missiles around. So like one is like a pure HE small missile. With
Having a
small-
thumper head on it, it would just laugh at LAMPs and other systems that are designed to counter it.
Yeah, some more focused firepower.
By the way, the
Oh, no.
enemy ship is capsizing.
Yeah, I noticed.
I'll note a couple things about this before we go on. And one of those should be that its detection, even though shared, is not enough. Look at all of those missiles just circling endlessly because they can't quite pick up the target. They
Yeah.
do hit eventually, but
Well,
Yeah.
they keep going, and to be fair, they may not be hitting, but they will still distract enemy missile defense doing that.
that's true. And, well, the enemy ship was disabled through a couple lucky hits with those heat missiles, the large ones which hit the ammo storage. So, well, eventually this thing can kill quite a lot, but I guess anything with super caps would do relatively well against it through thumb damage alone.
So, I think we're probably at a good point to start giving our final thoughts on this. Does anyone want to start us off with those?
Needs more solid hits.
More DACA.
Matey, do you have any other things that you would like to mention?
It's interesting, but overall, yeah, firepower is lacking.
Feels
I mean,
more like a
even-
gimmick. doesn't it?
Even a single autocannon would significantly boost the firepower,
Mm-hmm.
and that's saying something.
But I think that this design, it just kind of serves as a testament to there's not really a whole lot of right or wrong ways to do things in front of the depths, and with enough determination, you can make about any unconventional thing in front of the depths conventional.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the biggest takeaway I'm getting from this.
Yeah, this thing is the testament to the diversity you can achieve in from the depths.
Dan, would you mind putting that destroyer out of his misery?
Not at all.
Just so we can get this thing out,
Alright.
out of the water before we finish up.
That's probably wise, yeah. Alright, we've all shared our final thoughts. I guess we're ready to close out things unless anyone has anything else they'd like to add. Don't y'all come running to me at once now.
Are we sure that normal is not secretly a defector from what was it? Steel Striders? No. Twin Guard?
Yeah,
Yeah. We might
I
need
think
to
what
put
the
some as
inputs, yeah.
allegiance.
I think he's a malfunctioning AI from the Twin Guard, honestly.
Well, have you heard of the intro on his videos? Stay for now, stay forever. That
Yeah.
robotic voice.
Yeah,
I think we
He
know where
is.
normal comes from now.
I could see him totally being a cyborg now that you mention it, yes.
Yes.
Well, there we go.
Just looking at all of it, and well, the lore in FTD is definitely the autonomous unit U2, the failed one. As you have U3 as the mini campaign, but not U2. So, theories.
Yep. Alright, so I guess I'll go ahead and close this out unless Ian wants to do so.
No, you go ahead.
You go ahead.
Well, this has been Dama.82 along with Iron Mark III, Lokari, Jack, and a few others it looks like have joined us since then. We also got Bursting Shadows and Chaos in there. Okay. I'm glad you guys were able to join us. I hope you enjoyed watching what we're doing here. So y'all have yourselves a hell of a day and keep your hammer high. Later.